Alright, so I'm going to show how to open up and disassemble this Lenovo Yoga 314. So first what you want to do, it's also model name 80JH, sorry. So first thing you want to do is you want to remove all the screws from the bottom. So to do this, you would need a T5 screwdriver. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? Once you remove all those screws, just go on the back. You'll see there's a gap between the silver part and then the top half. So just get your fingernails or a pry tool and then go along the edges here. And then just go around. And then just kind of pull it up. You'll see it kind of lifts up these edges. You can kind of run the pry tool along as you kind of go along the edges. All right. And then this cover came off pretty easily. So just like that, you got the cover off. Okay. If it's not coming out, just use a little more force. You can see there's like these little clips here and these clips up here. So if it doesn't come out, you might have to just pry it a little bit more, but yeah. All right, once you do that, then you'll see inside, you'll want to disconnect the battery first. So remove the screws. You'll use a PH1 or a J1 screwdriver bit. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws holding the battery down. You'll see like little white arrows pointing to where the screws are. Once you do that, just lift up a corner of the battery with the little tab here. And then while you're doing that, kind of hold the cables and kind of use it to kind of wiggle the connector out, just like that, right? That's how you remove the battery. And then to drain the power, just to be safe, be careful, open it slowly since the cover's not helping hold down the hinges, but open it slightly like this. And then just hold the power button for about 10 to 20 seconds just to be safe, drain all the power out. This is very important if you're going to mess with the LCD cables. Usually if you're taking other things out like changing the RAM or the hard drive, you don't need to do this, but just to be safe, you can do it anyways. Alright, so once you do that, then you'll see there's the SSD here or hard drive. So to remove that, there's just 4 screws holding this bracket in place, and then there's 4 screws holding the bracket onto the hard drive or the SSD. So if you want to change the hard drive or SSD, just take the bracket, transfer it to a new one, and then you can do that. It's a SATA 2.5-inch SATA drive. So to remove the connector here, you just flip this little white latch up, just like that. Once you flip the latch up, you can get underneath the blue part of this connector, and then you can pull it out. So that's how you remove the connector. Usually I'll do that when the drive is pulled out, but I'm just kind of show quick how you can remove it. And then to remove the connectors, I like to use my fingernails to kind of move this. What you can do is you can actually pull part of it, and then when you get a small gap here, if you have like a plastic pry tool, you can insert it between the connector and there, and you can use that to help you pry the connector away, just like this. Okay. So I just use my fingernails here, but you can pry in between. Okay, since I'm leaving it in the computer, it's not going to pop out all the way because it's hitting the motherboard or the logic board, but yeah, that's how you would remove that. Okay, so let me put this connector back. All right, most of these connectors are the same. Let's see. Okay, so just make sure to get it back in place and then latch it back down. All right, then you got the wireless card here. So to remove the antennas, you just lift up from the back of the tail. Don't pry from the front of the connector. So when you pull from the tail of the connector, it'll pop off just like that. And then to put it back, you basically just line it back up, make sure it's completely flat. You'll know it's lined up properly because if you try and move it around, it stays on the connector, and then you can just push it down. Okay. And to remove the wireless card, you would use a PH1 or J1 screwdriver. Remove the screw here. It'll pop up at an angle, and then you can kind of just wiggle it to pull it out. Okay, so that's how you would take out the wireless card. Put this back in. Okay. All right, so that's how you would remove that. Make sure it's lined up. Okay. All right, so then you got the RAM here. So you just pop the 2 things to the side like that, and the RAM will pop up. This is 8 gigs. It doesn't say what type of RAM on here, but this does look like DDR3 RAM. So I think it's 1600, so I think that's what the 1600 is for right here. Other than that, I don't really see anything saying what type of RAM it is. But if you want, you can like look up the model numbers and stuff on this stick of RAM, and then you can find what you need. I believe this looks like DDR3 RAM, so yeah. All right. Then you got the trackpad cable, same as the other ones. You just flip up the little black tab, same here, and then you can pop it out and pull out the cable. The trackpad is held in place with some screws, so if you do need to replace the trackpad, you can. Then you got this separate USB 3 board here with the headphone jack and the SD card slot, as well as the speaker connector. So if you need to change any of this, or if any of these things aren't working, this board is replaceable separately. Then you got the charge port here. It plugs in over here. So the charge port, you can easily replace it if something goes wrong. You just have to undo the screws for the hinge and then pry up the hinge. Usually what I do is I'll unscrew the things. So I'll unscrew it just slightly so it's not really tight, and then lift the board up a little bit. Take the rest of the screws out, and then you can push this part down and the hinge will stay popped up a little. Then you can pull the hinge up a little bit more. Just be careful not to pull it up too far because it'll hit the frame since the whole thing's not opening with it. All right, so the DC jack connector is a little bit weird. Actually, what I do is I'll take my fingernail or a like plastic pry tool, get underneath the front of it, and then you can actually pop this up. So just pop it up like that and it'll come out. Okay, so make sure when you're prying this that you're just prying underneath the plastic part of the thing, not onto the connector on the board, because if you do, you can damage it. And then to put it back, do the same thing, just put it back with this side first, because it actually slides. So as you can see, hopefully you can see that, but it slides backwards and then it goes down. So make sure when you take it out that you slide it in at an angle, and then you push the part that you pried up back down. Okay, so let me see here. Make sure it pops back in place. Okay, so there you go. All right, then you got the LCD connector here. So the LCD connector, okay, it looks like this one just pops up as well. So I just use my fingernail underneath here, and then I just pop this up just like this. Okay, so a lot of people complain about, I know my nails are long, but yeah, they're very useful. Pry tools, sometimes you do this and then you end up like prying off like the connectors because you don't feel what you're doing. But yeah, so there's that. All right, and then just line it back up and push it back down. That's how you would replace the LCD connector. So if you do need to change the screen out or something, then that's how you would take that out. The CPU is soldered to the board. I don't know if there's a second stick of RAM. It doesn't look like there would be one. So if there is memory built in without the RAM stick, it's most likely soldered onto the motherboard on the other side, because I don't see anything that looks like RAM on top. But that's pretty much it. The speaker, I think I mentioned it. The cable goes underneath this board or the hard drive, and then it connects also to this cable. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video helped you. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is this is the keyboard connector here. So just like the hard drive, you flip up the little latch and then you can pull it out. And then there's also the keyboard backlight cable here. The keyboard looks like it's actually held in place with some melted plastic nubs. So if you need to replace the keyboard, most likely you won't be able to replace just the bare keyboard. It's a lot of work, and you'll have to use something like a 3D printer pen to melt some new plastic in place. But yeah, if you do decide to replace the keyboard, most likely try and get the keyboard palm rest if it's not that much more expensive. If it's crazy expensive and you want to just try the keyboard, make sure that you're willing to put in the time and the risk to take this whole metal plate and cut all these little plastic bits off. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this video helped you. If it did, please like and subscribe because that'll help me. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.